Alright guys, we got a couple more people in here. I'm just going to go ahead and get started. This will probably be a shorter live stream than the ones that I've done in the past, just because there's not too much to talk about, but I also want to keep this down so that if someone is really concerned about what Mac they need to buy, then they don't want to watch a whole hour-long live stream. So potentially I'm going to make this video make this into a video, just like a smaller, maybe 5 to 10 minute video later on the channel, so that's a little bit more shareable, and then people can kind of skip past the live stream. But that's just kind of a heads up. That to the side, just welcome to the live stream. Thank you so much for joining. It's a beautiful Saturday morning or afternoon here on the East Coast of the States. We've been getting some nice weather here, which has been nice from like the really intense winter and rain. But yeah, let me know what weather you guys are getting wherever you're at. Hopefully it's not too cold, or I guess it wouldn't be too hot unless you're on like the other side of the world. But thank you guys so much for joining. We're gonna jump right into this, and let me know how everything is sounding, if any of the levels are too low or high. I'm gonna try and keep the music running just so that it's not too boring. Rockin' Sunrise Projector, that's a band my brother and I came up with. We just released our third album on February 6th, so hope you've been enjoying the music, but that's the music that I've been playing. I'll go ahead and close that. But yeah, so today we are looking at what Mac you should buy. This is kind of a loaded question because there isn't one answer that will satisfy every Mac customer, because there are tons of different Macs, and then a lot of people bring up the argument that Macs are expensive and that you should just buy a PC, and it's true. Like if you're in that group of like, I just want a lot of power, I don't want to spend a lot of money, and Mac OS like isn't that important to you, i.e. iMessage isn't that important to you, then you could totally go build a PC. You could probably save a lot of money, and I definitely agree with the argument that like it's able to be upgraded through the years. So as new components come out, new CPU, RAM, graphics cards, all those things, you can have your own monitor that's not like built into the computer. Then you can upgrade those through the years, and you're not really set down with specs, until you sell the computer. So that's a valid argument. I totally agree with that. But I love macOS so much. I love all Apple products a lot. Obviously, I'm biased because the whole channel is called Mac Square. But hopefully this live stream will help you narrow down what Mac you should buy. If you're just buying a Mac, if you're thinking about upgrading, in the title I also put iMac Pro, which I'll get into in a couple minutes. But let's just jump right into it. I've created a really simple keynote presentation. So I'm gonna jump into this right here. Perfect. So I can't actually see if this is still live streaming because it just took over all of my monitors, but hopefully this still works. Let's do this. Or we'll get there, guys. This is the problem with having 3 monitors. There you go. All right. So what Mac should you buy? Well, there are really 3 categories of users in my opinion. There's the beginner category, the advanced, and pro. Now, I know usually you would say something like beginner, intermediate, and advanced, but I found that intermediate can often bleed into being a pro user, but it can also kind of mean just being a beginner user. I thought that I was in the pro category for a long time, until the iMac Pro and the Mac Pro started to come out. That's when I really realized that I didn't really need to get into those computers. I didn't really need that much power, but I'll get into that in a second. So there's 3 categories. The first category, the beginner, this is much more cost efficient. So this is mostly for students. Now, I don't like really, including roles like a student or parents or, employee or whatever, because I am a student, but I need a lot more than what a beginner computer would have. But generally this is like for a student who's just really browsing emails. They need it to be portable. They're like taking notes and using it for textbooks. They're not doing anything really intense. So these are cost efficient, they're portable, but they're not very powerful. So you're really just trying to get the best, solid Mac pretty much all Macs are pretty solid, but you're trying to get a portable Mac that's gonna last you for a long time. It's cost efficient. You know, people won't think about their computer when they're using it. They're just trying to, you know, respond to emails, browse the web, whatever. So that's really the beginner category. I think the advanced category, you're really focused a lot more on power. You're trying to get more RAM and storage, graphics, those kind of things. Now this can be portable. Like if you wanted to get a spec'd out, maybe you wanted, you know, 8 gigs, 16 gigs of RAM, maybe you wanted a terabyte SSD, but you wanted that all in like a MacBook, you're gonna spend a lot more than you would if you were just to buy that in like a Mac Mini or in a iMac. And so I'm going to get into specific examples of each computer, but this is really focused a lot more on power. And this is where it gets kind of in this gray area because, like I said, power is kind of like, it's relative to what you need. If you're just doing a lot of video editing and stuff, like you may need a lot of power because you're rendering videos and animations and all those kind of things. But maybe this just means you're doing some photo editing and you're not really doing something super intense. So that's kind of where it kind of blends over. The last thing is Pro, and I think people just, it's pretty much just like the top of the line. It's very powerful. It's definitely not portable because you're not going to get that much power in a laptop form. And it's definitely not cost efficient, but the people who are buying these computers are sheerly focused on powerful. I don't know if sheerly is a word. Solely, maybe I'm thinking of solely. So just to kind of explain what I was saying, like beginners are those light users. I'm not talking about their weight. They're not skinny people. I'm just saying that they're kind of very light, intense. It's very, this is going down a rabbit hole. It's very light on the CPU, if you know what I mean. So like I said, it's just email communication. Portability is usually important. Now for advanced, these are kind of medium to heavy users who are, like I said, using this for graphic intense work like video editing. Maybe they're doing music or photo production. Like I said, portability might be important, but it's going to bring the cost up. And then pros are just people that will take control of the world. I mean, this is like these days, like you're getting so much power in the top of the line Macs and in computers in general. It's just insane how much power you can get if you're willing to spend enough money. So I think just to sum it up, I'm gonna exit out of this and get much more into this, but to sum it up, beginner Macs are these kind of computers here. There's like the 12-inch MacBook, which is, you know, it's small, it's not a lot of power, there's not a lot of ports, you know, it's just like one or two, it's a headphone port I believe, and one USB-C. I definitely think they should change it to 2, and then you can charge, but I know there's dongles and all that stuff, which makes it a lot more bearable. But a lot of people, like students and maybe moms and, you know, those kind of people for Macs don't really want to have an adapter and stuff like that. So they really will buy the computer and then like never think about anything computer related again until it like breaks or something like that. So they're not going to be dreaming about, you know, buying an iMac Pro or anything like that. MacBook Airs, I guess those still are around in 2018, but it's a definitely valid option. The Mac Mini is a really solid choice. My mom had a Mac Mini for a few years actually, and she loved it. I mean, it did everything. I think it was like in fact, I think it was my old Mac Mini, so it actually had like 16 gigs of RAM. I don't know if you guys remember when I had that, but it was 16 gigs of RAM. It was, I think it was like a terabyte or 512 SSD with like a terabyte 8 hard drives. So it was 2 hard drives in it. It was a quad core i7, so way more than she needed, but it lasted for like a couple years. She just had like, my dad bought her like a 27-inch monitor, and like that was perfect for her. So those are the kind of people that it's for. But she has an iMac now. It's an older like 2010 iMac, and again, it's perfect. Like it's 8 years old, but it's doing exactly what she needs it to do. But these are also the people that like could be satisfied. Like if there was an iPad Pro that came in like a 21.5-inch configuration with a full keyboard, like they'd be happy because like an iPad Pro could do everything they need. And so those are kind of the beginner Macs for people. The advanced Macs are people who are looking at MacBook Pros, definitely the iMacs, like the 5Ks for sure. And even I would say the Mac Pro, like the trash can, like 2013, that's a solid option because you can really get a lot of solid, like powerful Macs used. I still have it, but the computer before this one I just upgraded to an iMac 5K. I had a mid 2014 13-inch MacBook Pro Retina, and I got that used, but it had like all the specs I needed. It was 16 gigs of RAM, 512 SSD, quad core i7, all those things. It was perfect, and I saved a lot of money by buying it, on eBay. So that's another thing, is like these are great options. But like I said, like for a beginner, like even if you are a student but you maybe need a little bit more work or power, then you could get like an iMac and just go for like an older model that's used. And then I would say for pro users, these are like the iMac Pros and Mac Pros. Definitely like the top of the line trash can Mac Pros. And then I was kind of also referencing the new modular Mac Pro, which we have yet to see. It's 2018. That's all Apple has told us, but that's on the list. So that's really what Mac you should buy, in my opinion. That's my whole presentation. But I'll definitely jump into specifics on like Apple Store, or on the Apple Store, like going through all the actual options. But yeah, so that's really all the Macs, like the three categories in my opinion. I'm just taking a look at the chat to see. Yeah, I know there's just a question about, or someone was saying that they love Apple OS, but they have like a specific app that they use for music that's only on Windows. I find that a lot with people, especially in like the music production world. I have a couple friends that are like on, like Mavericks, running like Mountain Lion and like really old versions of Mac OS, just so that they can run like Pro Tools and some of those other DAWs that are not really staying like updated with the latest Mac OS. So I totally understand that. I personally use like Logic a lot for all my music production. I also use Ableton Live and like MainStage, but so like I'm assuming you probably know what you're doing, like if you're that committed to Windows to just run FL Studio. But I think if you're just getting started with like music and stuff, like Apple, like with MainStage, even Logic, it's like $200, but you can get like the student bundle that's like all 5 apps for like $200, which is amazing. That includes Final Cut and MainStage and a bunch of other stuff. So like there's a lot of like awesome options on Mac OS, but yeah. So I've pulled up the Apple Store here, and you can just see all the computers here. So we've got MacBook. This is the 12-inch. You guys are probably familiar with this. I actually owned this for a year. I had it for a year, and I loved it. Really, it's like a great secondary laptop for what I'm doing. But if you're like just a student or like a beginner user, like I was saying, this is honestly like the best option. My friend, she's a freshman now in college, and she just bought one of these. She loves it, and she's even doing some music stuff, and it's like still working for her because these are some pretty powerful computers. They're super thin. They're battery efficient. They're like long-lasting battery. It's everything like. It kind of takes over what, because like I think a lot of us like in the Advanced and Pro are like thinking about these kind of specs and like what's the best kind of configuration. But like the MacBook 12-inch is like such a simple laptop. Like, it's very powerful, but from the users or like the customer's perspective, it's very simple, so that they just like, oh, it's like $1,200, perfect, I'll buy it. Like, they don't have to think about like, well, if you want to get like this extra 2 gigs of RAM, you have to spend this much money. They're not thinking about that in too much. But awesome computer. It's pretty cheap. Like, if you go and look at some of the options, you can get like the 1.2 gigahertz processor. I would say, like, for anyone who's buying a new computer, always get more storage than you think you'll need. unless like you know that like you're just doing stuff like on Google Drive and Dropbox, then like you could save yourself $300, go with this option. But again, I'm in more of the advanced user group, so I would always pick this one. But again, $1,300, and if you're a student, you get discounts. You know, you can finance it. There's tons of options. But yeah, that's the MacBook. The MacBook Air, again, solid choice. It's $1,000. This is almost like a close runner-up to the 12-inch MacBook, because it's got more ports. You know, you've got at least one USB port, which in my opinion, like, I think a lot of people, like students, would actually prefer this, because most people in that beginner category aren't really thinking about what USB port they have. Like I said earlier, they don't want to have to think about carrying a dongle and an adapter around everywhere they go. And it's got a headphone port. I think it even has on the 13-inch models, it has a SD card slot, which is perfect if you're like taking photos. I'm just trying to find it. Oh, I guess they also got rid of the 11-inch. I haven't looked at this in a while, but the first Mac I owned was an 11-inch MacBook Air. That's what gosh, I gotta think back, but I think by the time I started the channel, I was on my Mac Mini, but that must have been like weeks, almost months after I got rid of my 11-inch MacBook Air. So I got my 11-inch new, I think, but I got my Mac Mini. Oh my gosh, there's so many names. I got my Mac Mini used, awesome deal, and then I got my next MacBook used, which I talked about, and yeah, but anyway, so the 13-inch is an awesome option, but those are really the options, I think, for beginner users. I think the Mac Mini is useful. I think if like you know that you're only ever going to be using it at home, like you won't be wanting to go to a coffee shop, so like definitely not students. Like students need it to like throw it in their backpack and just take it wherever. But the Mac Mini is an awesome option. Here's the thing, it's starting at $500, which is like, I mean, obviously you're not getting a monitor, but like a monitor, you can get a decent monitor for like, I mean, for these kind of people, for like a beginner user, you could get a decent monitor for like $100 or $200. You get it on like a Black Friday deal, sale, or something like that. It's like, you're still under like $600 for like a decent setup. I mean, you know, it's 4 gigs of RAM, which it's low, but again, I'm biased, like, but still, for 8 gigs of RAM, a terabyte hard drive, like, for $700, like, that's a great deal, and it is in some way portable. Like, you could at least, like, if maybe you're going to another city for like a month, and you want to bring like a small monitor, you could. One thing, like I said, I did have a Mac Mini. I took a Pelican case, and I kind of built like a modular mobile setup for my Mac Mini. So I had the Mac Mini in there, I had a power strip in there, and I used my iPad Mini with, what's the name? It was like some app that allowed you to basically use the Mac Mini or use the iPad as a monitor. So and it all fit in like this small Pelican case, so all I had to do is just like plug it into the wall. It worked pretty well. I think I used it for like a year or two that way, but it was awesome. Like if I was going over to a friend's house and like we were gonna be doing some editing or music production, like I could just bring it all together. I was interning at like a video production studio at the time, and I brought it around like just from home. It was like really easy to move. You know, it's not ideal. Like you're not gonna go to a coffee shop with like a Pelican case and like try and plug it in for sure. Like that's just kind of ridiculous. But it works. So like you could totally use it. Like Mac Mini, it's not taking up a lot of space on your computer or on your desk, which is great. But that's kind of where the beginner group ends. Now, if you want to start going into the advanced, like you're definitely gonna go into MacBook Pro territory and iMacs. Now, if you want like a really simple answer on like you definitely identify yourself in the advanced group. Maybe you identify yourself in the pro user group. Like, again, I definitely thought I was in the pro user group until I saw like the iMac Pro and the Mac Pro when they were released, because that's like, of course, like I'd love to have an iMac Pro, but I'm not even going to be able to use it. Like for the stuff I'm doing, like I can't even think about anything I could do that would like really max out one of those computers. If you've watched like MKBHDs or I think it was TLD Today did like a comparison with like the 5K iMac, the iMac Pro, and like a MacBook, I think it was a 15-inch MacBook Pro 15-inch, and then they compared all three of those to like a Threadripper PC, which was awesome. Like they rendered in Final Cut, they rendered some stuff in C4D. That was like an hour-long live stream that you should definitely look that up if you're really interested. I think I shared it on like my community tab if you want to go check it out. But that was really when I decided like I don't need an iMac Pro. Again, I'll kind of save that for a second, but if you definitely identify yourself in the advanced group, MacBook Pro, the new MacBook Pros are awesome. I know a lot of people are saying like they're actually, less powerful than some of like the older MacBook Pros. And it's true, like, I mean, it depends what you're doing. Like, I think if you're doing a lot of like video editing and photo stuff, then I think they're actually better computers because they're better graphics cards, they're better, just better components in general. Obviously, it's gonna be more expensive because you're paying for the portability factor. Like, that's a huge thing to take into consideration when you're buying a new Mac. Like, this is, for decent specs, like I remember speccing out my, I was looking at, before I bought my iMac 5K, I was looking at like a 15-inch, and I think I literally brought it up to like it was like 29,000 or 3,100 for the MacBook Pro that I wanted, like with all the specs. So that was, I think it was actually this one. So I upgraded it to 4.1 gigahertz i7. I went with the terabyte. Actually, I think I even left it at 512 SSD. Maybe it was a terabyte, but this is like literally the MacBook Pro I spec'd out. So remember this is 3,400, right? So that's, you're getting terabyte SSD, 4 gigs of graphics, you're getting 16 gigs of RAM, it's a quad-core i7. And now if we go to the iMac, and I think we're gonna choose, 27-inch, 5K, maxed out version, 16 gigs, terabyte SSD. Look at this, 3,100 versus 3,400. Like, the MacBook that I spec'd out was more expensive for me. I mean, obviously because you're paying for the portability, but you're also getting twice as much graphics, which was huge for me. I had like 1.5 gigs of graphics on my MacBook Pro before. You have very little graphics when it's measured in megabytes. Like, it said 1,500 megabytes of graphics, but now I've got 8 gigs of graphics. This is an insane machine. Of course, you can go up. So like, if you're an advanced user, like seriously consider whether or not you need a portable computer, because you'll save a lot of money, but you'll just always enjoy an iMac way more. Now, if you're like someone who literally travels like every week, then obviously just go get a MacBook Pro. Like, don't even think about an iMac, that's pointless. Or if you're a student or anything like that. But again, like if like the majority of your work is going to be editing at home or at the office, like get an iMac 5K, and then if you're going to be working at a coffee shop, like replying to emails, just go get like a 12-inch MacBook, or like get like an old MacBook Air or older MacBook Pro for like, $800, under $1,000, and then you can just use those two, or just go get like an iPad Pro and use the iPad with your iMac. That's really my recommendation to anyone in the advanced user. Now, someone out there is probably going to be watching this and saying like, no, I'm definitely in the pro spectrum. Then let's just take a look at this. So you've got the iMac Pro and the Mac Pro here. The iMac Pro starts at $5,000. So first of all, like if that doesn't sway you, then we'll just keep going. So you're gonna be starting off with an 8-core processor, 32 gigs of RAM, a terabyte SSD, and you're getting 8 gigs of graphics. So that's insane. I mean, $5,000, and honestly, I even looked at just getting like the base model. Like, that's the first time I've considered a base model Mac from the Apple Store, because like usually, you know, it's like if you would like 2 gigs of RAM and, you know, 25 gigs of storage, use our base model. And I'm like, you know, obviously, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but so this is the first time I considered getting like a base model configuration. And if you watch that TLD live stream, like, I know I keep referencing it, it's really worth it. Like, that's what settled it for me, because those guys are literally editing 8K footage. Like, I'm just getting into 4K, and even then I'm scaling it back to 1080 and uploading it that way for other projects, you know. And like 8K is insane. Like, they're shooting 8K raw, which is just out of this world. So seriously consider, like, if you know that, like, I feel like if you aren't sure if you're in the pro category, then you're in the advanced group. If, like, you would probably already know if you're in the pro category if you're like seriously considering these numbers. Like, these are really for companies, you know, who are buying these, like, don't care about the cost, or, you know, people like MKBHD and TLD Today and Austin Evans. Those guys, like, part of it is it's like their hobby and they enjoy it, and like I totally love like computers and specs. I love getting, like, geeking out on gear for sure. Like, I love an iMac Pro, but I can't afford an iMac Pro, so that's why, like, I'm in the advanced category. But hopefully, to like, you could pick between the iMac Pro, you could look at the Mac Pro. I think if you're in the pro category, you're looking at upgrading, just go straight for the iMac Pro, because the trash can Mac Pro, like, I think they upgraded it or updated it like a couple of years ago after 2013, but I mean, you're not getting a monitor, like a 5K monitor with it. And I think the iMac is really the best computer that Apple makes. It's an all-in-one machine. It's elegant. It has all the ports you need. It's really the best option, in my opinion. Definitely for advanced and pro. You know, you can get an iMac Pro for the pro users. But even for beginner people, like I said, like, if cost isn't too much of a big deal to you, you should consider getting an iMac if you're just editing at home. And again, you could go look at used computers. Like, I'm not, or you could look at like Apple's like refurbished program. There's a lot of great deals there. But that's kind of like my whole take on what Mac you should buy. Like, the iMac Pro is awesome. Like, it's a great machine. It's beautiful. I would love to have 10 of them at home. I don't know why the heck I would need 10 of them, but it would be awesome. But I don't need it. I don't have enough money to buy an iMac Pro, but B, even if I did, I wouldn't need it. Like, I would only use 50% of that power, maybe, like, with the stuff I'm doing. That's kind of been it on my take on what Mac you should buy. If you're watching this back after the live stream, feel free to drop a comment down below, and I'll definitely try and answer your specific question. Like, if you've got like a specific question to where you're at. Like, I'm a student who's a designer who's also editing, and sometimes I like to travel to the other side of the world. What computer should I use? You know, I'm happy to answer those kind of questions. But or yeah, definitely drop a question in the chat if you're obviously watching this live. I'm just taking a look now. My opinion on Hackintoshes is hacking. My opinion on hacking those computers is, I've considered it. Like, when I was looking, right before I bought this computer, I was looking at it for potentially, you know, speccing out one and building it up. First of all, it's kind of a pain because you have to build it all yourself, and I know that kind of sounds lazy, but I'm not like super into like building a computer and like getting into the specs. It made a lot more sense because I really wanted to be able to upgrade it. Like, I wanted it to be modular. I for sure looked at it. From what I've heard though, so I've never done it myself, but from what I've heard, it's kind of a pain. If you're someone who uses iMessage and a lot of iCloud stuff, it will never work. Like, you'll never get it working perfectly. So if you're, this is kind of going back to, like, if you're really into Mac OS, don't do it. But if you're just wanting to get like a similar experience to using Mac OS, then totally do it. Like, if you're not worried about iMessage and stuff. That's kind of my take. Yeah, if you guys have any other questions, be sure to drop it in the chat. Definitely get through it. That's kind of it from me. We are at 29,920, which you can see here. I can actually make this bigger. Yeah, so we are at 29,920 subscribers, y'all. We are almost there. We're like 80 subscribers away from 30K. I'm so excited for 30K, y'all. It's gonna be, I mean, I know it's 80 subscribers more than where we are now. I think it's just kind of that goal in my mind that, like, this is really working. Like, people are liking the content. I'm so thankful to you guys for sticking with me if you're just joining the channel, but for commenting, for actually watching my videos and liking them. It really does mean a lot, so I definitely appreciate it. But we're so close to 30K. There's definitely going to be a small little something that's going to be given away when we get there. So if that's a little bit of a motivation, then share it with your friends. Let's get there. Well, awesome, guys. I'm not seeing any more questions, so I think I'm just gonna go ahead and end it there. This has been 50 minutes regardless, even though I tried to make it shorter. Like I said, I'll probably condense this down into like a 5 or 10 minute video later if you know, you guys are interested, or if, you know, I find people are interested. But yeah, so that is the 7th live stream. I'm kind of blown away. Like, we just kind of started doing this randomly, like in September. Someone can look that up, September or something, and we're like on the 7th one. It's been going well. I know we've had some issues or whatever in past live streams, but it's awesome. I love connecting with you guys. I love making it a lot more personal and less scripted. I don't script my videos, but it's, you know, obviously you see the best of me because I'm editing out all the ums and uhs and mess ups and stuff and bloopers. But yeah, it's been a ton of fun doing these. We'll definitely keep doing them for sure. But yeah, that's been it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you're watching this back later, thanks for watching it back later. Be sure to like it if you enjoyed this. Like, just to give you guys some behind the scenes context, like, liking a video doesn't really do that much in terms of promoting my content. Like, YouTube's not gonna see, like, you know, 10 likes versus 0 likes and be like, this is the one that needs to make it to the front page. Like, I mean, maybe it helps, I don't know. What it does do is it tells me that you guys enjoy the content, so it goes a long way for me. So if you do enjoy it, definitely be sure to like it. Comment if you have any questions or anything like that. I am still running the Discord group. That's where you can post video suggestions, you can hang out, and I also throw in some other pro tips in that group where, you know, there are ideas that, like, aren't full videos. They're just kind of, like, I couldn't make a full video on it. They're just kind of a paragraph or two of text, like, hey, try this when you're on your Mac next time. So definitely be sure to check that out. That's going to be in the link. I'll actually update it right now to be there. All right. And it should be there now, or when you're watching this back. But thanks, guys, so much for watching. I will see you in the next one next week sometime. Probably Monday or Tuesday, probably Monday. But anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later.